All right, so I want to check in for a minute. It looks like silver, once again, is making some very interesting headlines. And so we have gotten up to $59 an ounce. And so that is something that I believe is monumental and definitely worth talking on. So it's been a minute since I checked in, but I just want to jump straight to it, share my 2 cents in reference to this whole end game um, landscape here. And clearly, silver is the last of the Mohegans to really tell us what is happening. And clearly, something has broken behind the scenes. And so, as I'm just combing through the news, I'm going to touch on silver a little bit, but also have to share with you some banking concerns because we have some interesting last minute emergency type liquidity being injected to the banking sector, which lets us know that at any minute between now and the end of the year, something could officially break, and we could be in really uncharted territory. But without any further delay, let me just jump into you with what's going on here. So on the screen, as you can see, this is from Bart Wright bar chart, and it says silver soars to $59 for the first time in history, going parabolic now. And so when I saw that, it was something that I definitely wanted to comment on, just because here we are now approaching the end of 2025, and we are witnessing what I would consider to be something historical. Historical for many reasons, because not only has gold led the way upward, but silver has followed and, for the most part, exceeded the level of excitement as well as the momentum in reference to having gone from 30 to 35 to 40 to 50, 45, 50, and now we're touching almost 60, and crickets from the mainstream media. But they are talking about Bitcoin, and that's one reason why it's becoming easier to see that the narrative is falling apart, and there's a lot at stake here. And of course, with MicroStrategy apparently starting a USD reserve for the potential drawdown of their products. They need a little backstop for their products, and so that's going to be something else we're paying attention to. But what I wanted to look at was just the last couple of days, especially in silver. And so as I bring this on the screen here, so here we have the last 5 days. And so just going back here to Thursday of last week, and of course we have the CME situation, midweek last week, and here we are now. It was 52.94, and then we started the trending up, had a slam down, and mind you, markets were closed here in the West, but they were not closed internationally speaking. And so we end up getting up to, as it says here, before this is Friday, so let me refresh this so I can get this done correctly here. And so let me go back 5 days. Okay, so as you can see here, so literally Friday opening, early morning from 53 shot up to 56.72, and then we had the weekend off, and then sure enough, Sunday, yesterday, markets opened up in the Western Hemisphere, got us up to $57, came down some, then we got up to 57.78. This is as of today at 5:11 this morning, and then sure enough, at the peak of the day, just shy of 2 p.m. today, we got up to 58.62. And of course, heading into the end of trading day, they managed to get the price down. Let me see here too. About it closed in the Western Hemisphere approximately 58 or 50, a little bit. Let's say 57, 58 just to be safe. And then of course, market activity opened up in the Western Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere, and now here it is now at 56.98. And so, when you see stuff like that, that is unprecedented, unheard of. So definitely says that there's something behind the scenes is breaking. And of course, the bullion banks are scrambling to try to get physical any way they can to cover them futures contracts. But let's not forget, the bullion banks, for the most part, are made up of the too big to fail banks. And so clearly, in an environment where liquidity is somewhat scarce, you got the Japan yen carry trade unraveling. They got interest rates, short and long, surging. And there's a major draw on liquidity. And of course, we're having crypto sell off, and cryptos was supposed to be the new frontier of a financial asset class, but it's only that way if there's liquidity, whether steady liquidity or a surge of liquidity. In an environment where there's a contraction of liquidity or a pivoting of certain types of liquidity from different asset classes, we're running into problems there. And so what does that mean? The bullion banks on the back end are going to eventually have to do some things, and it's going to hurt the too big to fail banks. And to my next point, let me just share with you something that once again is worth bringing to your attention. And so literally I saw a post today commenting on the activity that took place today, and the activity I'm referring to happens to be, let me get myself out the way here, let me try to minimize myself so I'm not as big. So here we have the overnight repurchase agreement. Treasury securities purchased by the Federal Reserve in the temporary open market operation. So once again, whenever something is mentioned as temporary and it's being utilized, that's usually a sign that there's some distress behind the scenes because the liquidity is needed. And so literally we have the New York Fed literally injecting liquidity for a 24-hour period into the banks and accepting treasuries on the other end of that trade there. And so here we have, this is activity literally starting in 2025. So once again, the last time we seen this type of activity, it goes back to 2020. So right above my head here, you see all this recent activity. And let me zoom in here so you can give you a better look. That's what I'm looking at. And so what we're noticing here is just this blip right here. This small blip here signals the activity of today. December 1st, there was 13.5 billion extended to the banks for 24-hour operations, temporary loans or funding of the banks in exchange for the treasuries for whatever needs they have behind the scenes. And of course, because the reverse repo fund, pool of funds have been completely drained, we're now back to the point where the too big to fail banks or the banks in general are in need of some liquidity. And the reason I want to mention this because if you go back out 5 years from now, let me click on here. If you go back out 5 years from now, you see, let me go back here, 10 years. So literally the last time we saw a lot of activity in these overnight repurchase agreements happened to be during the COVID crisis as a result of all the issues that the banks was experiencing. So here you see all this blue on the screen, and so no blue here because they had the reverse repo operations, and then prior to COVID, crickets. And so once again, here's another indicator of what's really happening. So when you have blue on the screen, we all know whenever there's blue on the screen, it usually, based upon previous events, it signals crisis. And then if I was to go out even further and we go to max, and so literally this is max. So you tell me, based upon the previous events, whenever blue shows up on the screen, it's an anomaly that usually is a signal that there's some things happening. And of course, you have the small gray bar, and then to the far over here, you got a gray bar and then another gray bar. And so these gray bars signal recession. So clearly, whenever the banks need overnight funding, there's signs of stress, i.e. it comes out after the fact that there's a crisis. And so here we are now. This is the third signs of bank stress that requires a abnormally large amount of liquidity. So you tell me there's not some type of crisis or banking event happening behind the scenes. And once again, you won't hear about it from the mainstream media. You won't hear about it until something officially breaks, and then there's a excuse as to why they need to do something. Whether it's, this particular bank went down, they'll use that as a catalyst to say that we need to now provide X amount of dollars to the entire industry because of this one bank here. In 2023, in March, it was the Silicon Valley Bank, which was the reason why they needed to provide a reassurance for all the other banks that for the most part failed in the same category. And so here we are now, silver surging, gold has been doing its thing, Bitcoin is down, and the banks are in need of some liquidity. Lets me know that we may not be able to get out of this year without something breaking officially and becoming public knowledge. Because once again, this is just me doing some back end, digging of news sources to come up with this. But clearly, something's happening. But anyway, just want to take a minute, share my 2 cents. As always, if you guys found value, drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this. And of course, I want to continue to do more videos and things of that nature. Impromptu things, nothing formal, just, connect, share information. So, definitely give me some feedback and take this, share so more people can see what's going on here. And then I'll just leave you with some opportunities. Sick of watching your savings lose value? Now's the time to get your weight up. Visit the RTD Silver Team store and either start stacking silver or add to your current silver stack. Because by getting the people's money, you're protecting tomorrow by stacking today. Click the link in the description to find out more information. Looking for ways to get affordable gold? Then it might be time to redeem your Federal Reserve notes to spendable 24-karat gold notes. It's real value you can control, and it's a great way to protect yourself against inflation. To get yourself some, go to buygoldnotes.com or click the link in the description. And last, if you're looking for alternative banking, look no further than UPMA Precious Metals. As you know, banks aren't protecting your money. They're actually using your deposits to extend loans, which expands the monetary base and offer you pennies and interest. Get back to traditional banking by opening up a free UPMA Metals account where you actually get to save in physical gold and silver in a vault with your name on it. To find out more, go to bit.com/gold silver banking or click the link in the description.